university that has a lush and green environment. An excellent university that is tirelessly innovating in various fields. A place where you can learn freely, whether surrounded by calming trees or inside the buildings, online or offline, beyond the classrooms, unbound by distance and space. All is provided to nurture you to become an active and innovative generation with diverse perspectives, which in turn earns appreciation. Imagine this, your future university supporting you to become an intellectual who is not only academically profound, but also spiritually insightful. The best private university that still strongly believes in academic freedom, encouraging you to express yourself in an era of fierce competition where contributions to problem solving are much needed. Its academic staff, as well as 107,000 alumni, have proven their worth, becoming ulil albab who are able to integrate science and Islamic teachings for the development of various sciences. Imagine this, your university is located in Indonesia's very own city of education, a city with a wide diversity of stories and cultures waiting to be discovered. Universitas Islam Indonesia is a university that is truly Indonesian, standing side by side with science, culture and art, creating a harmony of beautiful colors. Now stop imagining. It's time to realize your aspirations. Are you ready? Because here at UII, we are ready to show you the way.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Honorable the representatives of University Brunei Darussalam, Mohammed bin Zayed University of Artificial Intelligence, respected speakers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning from Indonesia. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
My name is Aida Minati Roma and I am your Master of Ceremony for today. First of all, I am very delighted to welcome you to online lecture series, Transforming Education Through Artificial Intelligence. This event is an excellent opportunity to meet with each university representative and explore the current state of AI in education, its practical applications, benefits, and challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, let us open this event by reciting Basmalah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. To start the event today, I would like to invite Dr. Domas Hatafdoli as the head of Center of Data Science. Dr. Domas, are you here with us?
Yes. Hi, Aida.
The screen is now yours.
Okay, thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Nice to have you all here. So welcome to this International Mobility Week events hosted by Universitas Islam Indonesia, the International Office, and also Center of Data Science, Universitas Islam Indonesia. Welcome, Dr. Nachinder Aneja from University of Brunei Darussalam, and also Dr. Andri Setiawan from Center of Data Science, Universitas Islam Indonesia, and also Dr. Fajri Koto from the Muhammad bin Zayed University of AI. Thank you very much for coming to UII, even though this is a virtual forums, I mean through Zoom, but I'm very glad to have you all here in the event online lecture series, Transforming Education Through AI. So this event will give some knowledge, broader knowledge to the attendants to become educated person, educated academia that may use AI as a part of their education. So this topic becomes very, very interesting nowadays, since the development of AI is now, I think it's in peak part. Okay. But then we still can see, we still can imagine how much far the AI will grow later on. So once again, thank you very much for attending this conference, for the speakers to share your knowledge in this events. And later on, I think Mr. Rifki will be the moderator here. So thank you very much as well to be the moderator for the panel sessions. And I think that's it. If there is something or feedbacks for the events or maybe the next event, please don't hesitate to tag us and give your feedbacks. And hopefully today's event will enlarge your knowledge, especially in the application of AI that may transform your educational process, educational movement, and your study that you are currently do, or you are if you are students, yeah. So you may use AI a lot at this point at present, and what kind of AI and how can AI transform your educational journey. I think that's it. Thank you very much, Ms. Aida, for the time. Since we already open by reciting Qila, hopefully the whole event for the next 2 hours will be blessed by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and all of the participants will get maximum benefit from this event. Thank you very much, and I give the time back to Aida. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Dumas, for the opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start our event today, I mean the main session, I am pleased to have photo session with all of the participants. So I request you all to turn on the camera. And I think the committee has sent you all the virtual background, so you may use it as the background. It's blue. I hope that your day is not as blue as the background. Okay, everybody is ready. I need the help from the committee to capture the picture. We will have 2 shots. All right, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you very much, everyone. Yes, I think we are now going to the main session, which is the lecture. And please be advised that we are providing e-certificate for the participants. So please stay tuned and enjoy the session. All right, the first presentation is going to be delivered by the representative from University Brunei Darussalam. And so with that, I need a help from my colleague, Mr. Rifki Fajar Gandawiguna, to lead the session. Mas Rifki, I'll pass the screen. You're not audible, I think. Still muted? No, there's no sound, Mas Rifki.
Okay. What about now? Can you hear my voice?
Yes, it's working.
Okay.
It's perfect. Good luck.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone, and welcome into the International Mobility Week. So in this online lecture series, we are going to discuss a very interesting topic. It's about AI. Recently, it invites never-ending debates about how do we incorporate AI into the education context. And I think we have notable speakers that we have invited for today's session. So the first speaker is Dr. Najender Aneja. I would like to introduce him briefly. The committee, can you show the slides? Okay. So our first speaker is Dr. Najender Aneja. Currently, he is serving as Associate Professor at School of Digital Science, University Brunei Darussalam. And then the topic that we are going to discuss with Dr. Aneja is harnessing generative AI, exploring the capabilities and application of large language model. He earned his doctoral degree from computer engineering from JC Bose University of Science and Technology, YMCA, India. And then he earned his master degree on computer technology and application from Delhi College of Engineering. And then he also earned his master on mathematics, MD University of India, and then bachelor degree on science, mathematics, physics, chemistry, University College, MD, University of India. So I think we would like to invite Dr. Najendra Aneja. Dr. Najendra Aneja, the screen is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. So let me share my screen. Okay, can you see the slides?
Yes, I can see your slides, Doctor. And you will have
Okay,
25
so-
minutes, and then the last 5 minutes will
Yes,
be your question and answer session, please.
Sure. So the session that I have planned is mainly from the computer science perspective, or you can say computer engineering perspective, that how to know the background behind the large language models. So how does the large language models have been trained? And what is the process that's happening behind the scenes, so that we know that what are the limitations and what are the capabilities of the large language model, and so that accordingly we should use in the education sector or any other sector as well. So these are the contents. So I'll cover the AI landscape, data sources, mainly which data sources have been used to create the large language model, for example, ChatGPT, and what are the stages in developing the large language models, and the training process, which is the reinforcement learning from the human feedback. What are the key characteristics, and what are the different APIs available? Because using from the ChatGPT from the web interface, we can do that, but we cannot develop a scalable applications. Like we want to do a number of tasks and we want to use programmatically access that. So we need that API. And I'll talk about some limitations, and we'll also talk about some prompting techniques and some academic applications, and how to mitigate the hallucination and bias, and what are the other text generation parameters and some use cases. Just let me know if, I mean, 5 minutes before the ending, so that I can fastly cover that in case the material is still pending. So AI landscape overview. So far, what we have used is supervised learning. Supervised learning is that we have a task and we know the output already, like we want to detect from the image whether this image has a cancer or not. So we have a labeled image, and we want to know whether this image is whether a cancer or not, or maybe we want to check whether the email is a spam or not. So we have a number of emails labeled image. So we were using the supervised learning, and we have been using supervised learning for that. The supervised learning is basically that we have labels and we have specific outputs. In unsupervised learning, we have no labels, no specific output. Like we want to classify our customers. So we have 1 million customers and we want to segment the customers. Or we have a high dimensional data and we want to reduce the dimensions of the data. We want to compress the data. So in those cases of clustering, so we use the unsupervised learning. And then there is a third learning, that is the reinforcement learning, where we have an agent, and that does, for example, if you want to create a AI agent who can play the chess, so we can train that agent using reinforcement learning, that will learn through trial and error, and based on the feedback that will get as the rewards, so the agent can optimize action. So this can be used not for the games, but we can also use it for example, we want to send a rover at the moon, and we want that agent, based on the environment at the moon, it can automatically adjust their action. So wherever we want that agent to do some actions according to the environment, we use reinforcement learning. And recently we have added into this one, we can call it as a generative AI. It can create new content. So new content can be text, it can be images, it can be audio, it can be video. So we have seen that ChatGPT and number of other large language models, they are creating the new content by learning from the data patterns. So we have already trained it, and they are able to create new content. So generative AI is based on the supervised learning principles. And the main function of this is generating text via large language models. And what's the mechanism here? The generative AI works like predicting the next word in a sequence. As you have seen in the chat GPT, when you enter something, when you ask a question, so it generates word by word. It doesn't give you the complete sentence. So because it has been trained according to this only. So we are given a large data set and we trained this model that can it predict the next word or not. So the way it has been trained in is like during the training process, we give this only built on supervised only this word. And then we ask model to predict the next word. So it may predict learning or it may predict something else. So it may say built on supervised large. So it doesn't make any sense, but that's the objective. That's the process of the training, that initially it may predict the large, but when we train it again and in different epochs and continuously, automatically, then we have seen now that it is able to generate learning or a very similar word that make a sense out of that. So this is how the models have been trained. So it is based on the transformer architecture. If you don't know about transformer architecture, that's perfectly fine. So we can say that it's a large neural network. A neural network also, you can assume that this is a function and it takes X and some parameters and it gives us Y. So this is essentially is a neural network. So we give an input and we get an output. And there are certain parameters of that we call it as a weights. So we have a large neural network and it has billions of parameters. So this theta can be billions or trillions of parameters. And we have seen Llama, Code Llama, GPT-4, and there are a number of other models available right now, and they have been trained on extensive data in the billions of words. So I'll give you just a demonstration of what are those data sources where these models have been trained. Like first is the Common Crawl. It has 250 billion pages. From last 16 years, they are collecting from 2007, and there are 10,000 research papers. 3 to 5 billion new pages every month is being added, and 82% of the raw tokens are in GPT-3. So this is available at this website. Anyone can download and can train their own large language model. Similarly, another may be the Pile, which have the 825 GB of the data. So some models have used this one also. There is another data set, the Stack Flow Overflow. So the computer science people know the Stack Overflow. So there are people ask questions and some of us have answered, and we have been using from a long time. So now because it is a data set and we know the answers are all human written and correct. So this data set has also been used in some of the models. And this is also available. There are 53 million records in that, and this is available at Hugging Face. And there are a number of GitHub repositories where we can access the data sets for LLM training. So what are the stages in developing the large language model? First is the pre-training phase, then is the supervised fine-tuning phase, and the third is the alignment phase. So the pre-training phase is training on the large corpus. So we have taken one of these data sets and we trained it for the next token prediction. And this we call it as a foundation model. Many times you may have seen in the newspaper that we have generated the foundation model. OpenAI has created the foundation model, and a number of other organizations are creating the foundation model, because this is a very time consuming process. Not everybody can create, because we have to process this whole, you can say the entire internet, like from 2000, whatever is available, we can crawl, and we have to train that model just for predicting the next token only. Next token means only the next word. So this model can predict the next word given a certain word. So you can say, tell me a story, and it can create the next word from that. Stage 2 is fine-tuning phase, wherein we have trained the specific task with the labeled data. So we have a data set where we have the instruction, we have the input, and we have the output. So we call this as instruction prompt pairs. So that is why a new field has been created, that how to write the prompts. So basically prompts are the instructions, how to write the proper instruction to for an input so that the output is correct. So if you are using the chat GPT and you are not getting the right output, most likely your instruction is not very specific or is not been able to understand by the model. So we can work on the instruction part. And I'll show you a data set, which is Alpaca by the Stanford. You can see here that this is the way that the models has been trained. So evaluate this sentence for spelling and grammar mistakes. Input is he finished. So the spelling, there is spelling error, his meal and left the restaurant. And then this is the output, expected output. So we have, when we train the model, we give the instruction, we give this input, and we give this model corrects this. And if it is incorrect, then we train it again. So this is the output. Ultimately, we want that this output should be from the large language model or ChatGPT. Similarly, how did Julius Caesar die? So there is no input. So if this is the instruction from the user, so we want model to give this answer. Or if this is the question, what is the capital of the France? The capital city of the France is Paris. So this is what we want from the model. So this is the second stage where we give the instruction to the model and we give some input and we expect that output should be coming. If that is not, then we keep on training the model until we get this output. The next is the stage 3. So next is the stage 3, where we align the model with human instruction. So this is very important, and this is why we see the performance in the ChatGPT has really improved, because now the model can give the response based on the human preferences, and that's the technique is reinforcement learning with human feedback. So in this one, what we have done is that we have supervised fine tuning, that we have a sample prompt and human written responses. So we have a prompt and we have written the human. So if there is a prompt that write a story, then we have a story. If there is a prompt, then tell me about large language model. So we have a human written responses for that. So this becomes its first step of the data set, first stage of the training. So we have given this data set and we train the models. So input, and once it has done, then we, in the step 2, we give the prompt. So we give the prompt and then we ask, what is your answer? What is your answer for this prompt? And then from those responses by the model, so humans rank the responses. And this ranking is again goes back to the model. So human has ranked. So we are training the model to learn the human preferences by getting the ranks from the human. And that is why why knowing this is important is because if you know this, how the model has been trained, and similarly, when we are using it, and if we are not training these models accordingly to our preferences, our output will not be will not be good, and then we may lose interest also that we are not getting the right responses. But in fact, is the reason the problem may be in our giving the proper prompt, which may not be one time perfect, but we can iteratively improve that as we have done in the training process. In the third step is the model from the input, which is our prompt or with the data. So that is the input and it generates some output. And we have from the generated output. So now we have trained a ranking model that can rank from different answers. So, and we give that reward based on that, whether the output is correct or not. So that when the user will type the input, it will get the best output. As I'm told in the case of the chess. So we want an agent to be trained on playing the chess, but the chess output reward will be available only at the end of the game. So similarly here also, the reward will be available when the output is correct as per the human preferences. So that's why we have used the reinforcement learning here. If you have any questions so far, you can tell. Otherwise, we could go forward for the characteristics of the large language models.
Ladies and gentlemen, so if you have questions, you may raise your hand or you may type your questions in the chat box, please. Okay, so we have a questions from Saddam Hussein. Can we paraphrase sentence or remove grammatical errors through generative AI in our research?
Yeah, definitely.
So that
Yeah, we can do that. If you want, I can give the demonstration as well. So you need to write a prompt here that you need to write like this one. In the ChatGPT, for example, you can write summarize if you want to do paraphrasing, or you can just say paraphrase the text given in quotes and give the text. Or you can write correct the grammar. Give the sentence, give the text here, and it will do it.
another questions.
In fact, if you want, I can show the demonstration. We can do the live demonstration as well. Will that be okay?
Yeah, it's okay. You have a time,
Yeah,
Dr. Aneja, if
instead
you
of,
want to
yeah,
do a demonstration.
yeah. Instead of going through the slides, I think it's better to do it live. Okay. Yeah, I would just also want to tell you, I have created certain tools also which you can use it. So the tools are available. I have a website called researchid.co, and this also you can just, if you are a researcher and or a faculty member, you can create a profile also here. And but on this website, you will see here that I have created a link here, that ChatGPT. So I have created here 4 tools here. So what are these 4 tools? Like create a multiple choice question. So many times what happens is that when we're teaching, so we want to give students a test. So, and it's very time consuming sometimes to create every time different questions. And the question we don't want from the ChatGPT that create 100 questions or 10 questions on this topic. So that was not my idea, which it can deviate from our topic. So what I want is that generally we prepare the slides, like I have the slides, and I want students to be tested on a particular topic only. So what I do is, so in this this is a customized version of ChatGPT where you can enter the text from your slides and it will create a multiple choice question. Similarly, if you want to create a short questions, it will create from your text from the short question. If you want to rewrite your MCQ, like you were telling that I want paraphrasing, so you can use this tool to rewrite your question so that it is a simple, understandable by the user, and it will not have any grammatical or any other error into that. And the other tool that I have created is AI Tutor. AI Tutor is mainly for the students, where the students wants to learn a topic. So it can give a topic to this AI Tutor, and it will give the explanation of that on that topic. Plus, it will also ask a question for the students, and the students can answer and can have an interaction with the ChatGPT. They will answer, and then based on that, they can learn the topic. So I'll demonstrate all of these tools. So we have first create a multiple choice question. Any topic that you may be interested here? Any participant has any subject? Or I can just say I'll go to my slides actually, if you can see here. So for example, okay, so this is AI landscape view. So we want to create, this is a topic that I want students to learn, that they should know what is supervised learning, what is unsupervised learning, what is reinforcement learning, and what is generative AI. Okay, so what I do is that this is a slide to MCQ. Provide the text to create MCQ. First option is the answer. Okay, so I'll type this text here and enter. Okay, so now question to the participants. Which learning approach allows an agent to learn through trial and error? using feedback to optimize actions towards specific goals, whether it is reinforcement learning, supervised learning, unsupervised learning, or generative AI. So it has used the content from my slides and it has created a question based on that slide. So that I can give it to the students. I have to shuffle the answers. For example, let's say that I'm using this slide now and I'm writing this slide here. And this way. So which of the following is a characteristic feature of large language models like GPT-4? So this is based on transformer architecture. It is primarily used for image editing. We know this is incorrect answer. It's trained on a small data set. We know it's incorrect answer. Incapable of generating contextual relevant. So the way I have created is first answer is the always the correct answer. And when we can use the learning management system to input these questions to the learning management system, and we can easily take that first answer. And then learning management system can automatically reshuffle it. So in some cases, you may need to adjust, but I am using it and I saw that the output is perfectly fine for me. In very minimum, I have to edit the questions. And I can select my slides and decide that whatever the topic that I want to read the questions.
All right.
Okay.
It's very good, Dr. Aneja. And I think we can go back into the chat box because there are some questions from Ibu Virus and Pak Fuad. If you're here, you may press your microphone and then you can address your questions directly. Ibu Virus, are you here?
Yes, but sorry,
Okay.
on my
Please,
camera.
Yes, sir.
please.
So my question, you can mention question, if AI makes things easier for students, especially undergrad students, there are concerned that students will think that they don't need to study on their own, so that they will.
Between
Yeah, it is
instruction and
actually.
input. Yeah.
You want to say something?
Yeah, how do machines
Virus?
differentiate between instruction and input, considering that on the AI interface, both are in the same prompt field?
Yeah, generally what we do is when we ask the ChatGPT, so we differentiate it. These models have been trained very nicely, and you don't have to worry about, like, if you want, give me your whichever subject you are, you can just ask any question from that, and I can write a prompt accordingly.
Ibu Virus?
For example,
So,
I can take this question maybe, and I can write it here that paraphrase the text in the code. So this is our instruction in the codes, like this one. Or maybe paraphrase the text, and then we can write generally what we do is you can use double quotes, you can use triple links, you can write text literally in the quotes in OTS. This, and then you can write the text in the quotes. So this is how the ChatGPT can differentiate between your text and the prompts.
if the user does not use like quotation or other characters
Still,
to,
it will mostly it will work. Mostly it will work. So even if I remove these quotes, for example, I do this, in most of the cases it will work. But if you want a specific output and you want correct, so I'll just say paraphrase the text. And I just say hyphen. Then also it will work. There will not be much changes into that. You see this the same answer.
All right. I think
thank you.
Okay. So I would like to move to the next questions. Probably it's related with the ethic, Dr. Aneja, about how do you
Mhm.
balance the benefit of AI with the potential risk of losing human agency and creativity in education? So yeah, how do we balance the benefits of using AI and then with the potential risk of losing human agency and creativity?
Yeah,
So
it's
did
correct. Actually, you remember when there was no Google. At our time, when I was studying, there was no Google. And we were studying and cramming and learning everything. And when Google and the search engine came, our learning and our behavior automatically changed. So there is no need. And even before that, some of the professors are using the open book system. And now we have ChatGPT. So only thing is now we need to live with these robots. So we need to change ourselves so that we can live with them. Otherwise, we will be obsolete. So creativity is definitely important. How to use these models, we can increase our productivity. Regarding students, we have the concern, and I also have the concern this that whether they are not cheating because these are the young minds, and sometimes they are go with the flow that we have to get the marks, and this is an easy way to get the marks, and then we can spend that time. So they don't have the long-term vision. Sometimes some students have the long-term vision, but few may not have. So it is our duty to make sure that they are learning and they are doing perfect assignments and do that. So maybe we need to do that possibly uh, that we have to go for the paper-based exams. So assignments, and we have to verify this. So I think that was my last slide. I'll show you that. What's the future? Maybe flip the classroom model. So maybe learn at home,
okay.
so we can give them the task that they need to do the home, and they maybe do the assignments in front of us in the class, or do the lab
Right.
experiments in front of us,
Mhm.
so that we can track the students and they are not deviating from a learning path.
Okay. So that's one of your way to limit
Yeah.
the interaction between students and the AI. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think
I
we
mean,
can
we
move
should not,
into the
we need to, yeah, we need to tell students, we need and need to encourage students also that they should use these tools.
okay. Okay. So we encourage the students to use these tools with certain requirements that you applied. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
And then the next questions from Ibu Wahyuningsih Santosa. If AI makes things
paraphrasing text.
easier for students, especially undergraduate students, there are concerns that students will think they don't need to study on their own, so their learning abilities will develop. What is strategy to prevent this from happening? And I think I'm going to propose the next question as well. So if we paraphrase using the AI, is it considered as plagiarism or not?
Actually, in most of the research conferences, they have already said, they have created the guidelines. If it is plagiarism, then it is your responsibility. And if you have used some AI tool, you need to mention that you have used AI tools. So it is not that you can get escaped from the plagiarism. So ChatGPT is, as I told, that it has been trained on the data set. And at times it can replicate the data set. It's prediction next word. So it can reflect as it is the data set. So you have said this and it can easily replace this. It may possible. And if you will not check, it responsibility is on the user, not on any other model. And this is very much clear from number of conferences. So plagiarism is altogether a different issue. If it is plagiarized, then it is plagiarized. You are responsible for that. Not you can't escape from that.
Okay.
But the
So
chances
yeah,
of
we
what I've
still.
seen is,
Mm,
yeah, we have seen is that it's very minimal, because if you write the text by yourself
mm.
and say that, paraphrase it, most likely it will be different. But if you actually text taken whole text generated by ChatGPT, then it is possible that it is plagiarized.
Okay. because as I know, so far there is no machine or detecting tools that can detect the sources that we made from the AI. I mean, if we use Turnitin, the Turnitin also cannot detect that our paper are coming from the AI. So yeah.
Yeah, that's actually not a good way also. I mean, Turnitin saying that, but it is not a good way that we should not be penalizing, because we know it's very difficult. You can
Okay.
paraphrase the text, you can generate the chat GPT, and there are a number of other tools. You can still paraphrase and get escape from that. But there are some research going on in this direction. If you see that how the chat GPT text is generated, let's say we are saying write a short note on. Maybe generative AI in 50 words or less. So some companies are doing tasks like that, because these words, these are words for us, but for chat GPT, there are some numbers behind that, and there are embeddings into that. So the companies are thinking that maybe this has some signature. There is some way that whether these words have been generated using the same pattern, follows the same pattern or not. So the companies are trying to do that, but still, even if they can do that, you can still use this one and say it, paraphrase.
Yes.
And there are a number of other models. You don't have to use ChatGPT. You can go to any other model and say paraphrase. So the embedding will be different. The pattern will be completely different. So see here, generative AI artificial, now it's saying generative AI encompasses. So it can replace certain words and you can escape from that. Even if Turnitin saying that, yeah, we can detect it, but it's not reliable. No company is going to admit that and penalize anyone. So plagiarism will be based on as a whosoever is submitting. So it is our responsibility.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Anija. I think I'm going to go into the last questions. This is the last questions. So how do you determine or force ChatGPT to give responses as we want? And he usually use prompts like answer with clarity, answer with description, but most of the time it didn't work.
This question you're talking about?
Yeah, the last questions. The last questions.
Yeah.
How do you
Output
determine or force ChatGPT to give response as we want? And then he usually use prompts like answer with clarity, answer with description, but most of the time it didn't work.
Yes, yeah. Sometimes what happens is you have to tell like this. You are a scientist in whatever
Okay.
field. So you want to say you are a scientist, you have to give the role to the chat GPT. You are a scientist who knows research in something. You can say computer science. You will answer. So the way that, for example, I have given the chat GPT created, you have to write, assume that you are training someone and you want to give an answer. You have some junior just recruited and you want to give certain task to that person, and how will you train it? So you want to assign a role. You will ask for the input even and the task to be performed. Okay, so now let's see what it says. So understood. As a researcher in computer science, I can assist you in various tasks, including data analysis, coding, algorithm design. Please provide the specific details of your query and task you need assistance with. I need to generate a scatter plot. Provide the R code for that. Maybe you can use Python or R. So keep on, you need to engage with the ChatGPT. So it has used some data and it has given the code that you can use in RStudio and just run it. So sometimes what happens is when I use ChatGPT, first time the answers are not perfect, then sometimes you get frustrated actually. It is not getting it right, because if you ask so much mathematical questions or so much analysis type of question, that ChatGPT may not give the right answers. But in other queries, it will give you the right answers. So if you can share something that was not working, so I can make it work. Maybe you can write in the chat box that this is the task that I wanted to do in the past, but it was not working. Anyone, any task?
Anyone would like to propose any task? Yeah, but I'm really sorry, Dr. Aneja. I'm afraid
It's
that we
okay.
have
It's okay.
reached our first 30
Yeah.
minutes. It's very interesting
Yes.
discussion, and we realized
Yes.
that ChatGPT can do more than we thought. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause to Dr. Aneja. Thank you very much. We learned
Thank
a
you.
lot
Thank you.
from this session. And I think we're going to continue the discussion into the next speaker. Once again, thank you very much. And we are
Thank
very
you.
honored to have you in this session, Dr. Aneja.
Thank you.
All right. So based on what we have discussed in the first discussion related to the yeah, it's more on technicalities on ChatGPT. We are going to move into the next speaker. So before starting the discussion, I would like to introduce our next speakers. It's Dr. Muhammad Andri Setiawan. Currently, he is serving as assistant professor or chief information officer at Universitas Islam Indonesia. And then the topic that we are going to discuss, I think it's also a very interesting topic. Make generative AI your thought-provoking companion. So he earned his doctoral degree on the information technology at the University of Queensland, Australia. And then he earned his master degree on communication software and networks, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore. And then bachelor degree on electrical engineering, Universitas Gajah Mada, Indonesia. I think without any further ado, because we have a limited amount of time, I would like to give the same to Dr. Andre. Dr. Andre, are you here?
Masih, Pak Andre just sent me a text that he said that something wrong with his computer, so please wait 1 minute.
Okay.
He needs
So
to, he needs
his name
to
actually.
restart the computer.
Sorry,
yeah, okay.
just got a little
Yeah.
bit problem with my laptop. Somehow it just restarted.
Yeah, okay. Go for
Please
it.
bear with me for a while. Let me share my screen.
Okay. Okay, please, Dr. Andre.
Sure. Here it is. Okay. Go back again, share screen. All right, can you see my screen now?
Yes, it's clear.
All right, cool, thank you. Right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure. In the sessions, I'm going to have this talk. Thanks for having me. It was like I saw a few of the slides provided by the previous speakers, and it's quite good. So now let's have a look how this generative AI, the so-called generative AI, will be a good thought-provoking companion for us. I saw some of the questions asking whether the people doing paraphrasing is actually cheating or not. But let us have a look how actually this so-called generative AI actually works. So first of all, this so-called AI today, the landscape is totally different with the one that we had like a few years back. When we talk about AI, it was not started in 2022. It was actually started long time ago. Even actually, I believe we've been like in the 40, 50 years when we talk about this thing so-called this AI. But 2022 actually, it creates different situations where it used to be when we talk about the AI, it was only being talked by certain people. It was only being discussed in, say, for example, in computer science field. It's been discussed in specific industry. But since the year of 2022, when the OpenAI deployed the ChatGPT, and all of a sudden, everyone is now talking about AI. I call this one as a democratizations of AI. So AI is no longer being spoken by certain people. It's now basically everyone, they talk about this AI. So sometimes it's, when we talk about AI, we will say something like this. We'll just do everything by AI. So it's AI this, AI that, AI this, AI that. So it's kind of like having AI is basically always a good things where we can solve all problems with AI. Well, actually, unfortunately, it is not, at least until today, because the way that AI has been doing right now is basically the most popular one is so-called this LLM, the large language models, which some of the hardcore AI will say this is not AI. This is basically machine learning. Machine learning is a subset of the AI itself, but it's not the way that the AI scientists see about this AI. So I believe the previous speaker already mentions about this LLM, the large language models. Basically, large language model is because we have vast amount of data. It learns about the data itself. I used to explain something like this to my students or to some workshops when I'm doing this workshop of the AI. I put like a photo of Indonesian persons, and then I ask them, if you see this guy, Indonesian persons, what do you think of him? If I set up like a sentence, if I start with the word I, or in Bahasa Indonesia is saya, what would be the next word or verb after the word I? And then usually people will reply with some answers, and then eventually most of them usually reply with the word it. So I eat. Since the photo is about Indian persons, after I use the word I eat, I usually will continue asking them. So if Indonesian persons eat some things, what do they eat? So if I continue the sentence, it will say I eat rice, because normally Indonesian people, they eat rice. And then if I ask them another questions, so if I further continue the sentence, what do you think the next word after rice? And then they will eventually answer the question with, I will eat fried rice. So these are so-called I will eat fried rice. How does people conclude that if I have a photo of Indonesian persons, and then they decided that if I put some sentence with the word I, with some word with the word I, and then continue this or complete the sentence, they will eventually conclude that, okay, the most possible sentence generated from this photo is actually I eat fried rice, because we already have a patterns, we already have the informations in our brain that someone from Indonesia, when he eats something, he usually eat fried rice. So this LLM basically is doing the same things. If you ask so-called ChatGPT, tell me about why the sky is blue. The ChatGPT has vast amount of information about the sky, the suns, and then what caused the sky to be blue, something like that. And it used the knowledge that it has, and then answer the questions why the sky is blue. Well, actually, this ChatGPT actually doesn't understand why the sky is blue. If you ask ChatGPT why people eat rice, it doesn't understand why people eat rice. It just only understands that the concept of the word rice is usually close with it. The concept of rice is usually close with fried. So that's why the LLM can generate some things that for us human, when we see the LLM, we see that actually, oh, okay, it's so smart, it understands how to answer questions. The truth is, LLM doesn't understand how to answer questions. It doesn't have any consciousness level. So when you ask ChatGPT to say, for example, paraphrase a sentence, it basically doesn't understand how to paraphrase the sentence. But the way the ChatGPT works is basically, okay, if I have this certain word, it's usually followed by another certain words. So if you have, like, for example, growth can be, has like a similar weight with expand, for example. Okay, in the context of business growth and business expansions, oh, that's probably has a close word, something like that. So when it paraphrases something, it's basically, it doesn't know how to paraphrase. It just know that the certain word has certain weight. So then it generates answer questions, even creating content, even right now doing coding. Why they are able to do that one? It's because, again, they have vast amount of data. So this ability to mimic human language comprehensions and productions makes generative AI right now not just a tools. It becomes a means. It becomes a collaborators. It becomes, it opens a new horizon in how we interact information and expressing ideas. So what makes this AI become the companions? What sets AI apart as companion in our intellectual journey? So the thing is, we as human has limited number of knowledge. I grew up in Indonesia. I never knew that someone can have an allergic to peanuts. Long time ago, I never realized that there is actually a person who is allergic to peanuts. I only realized that there is something so-called peanut allergy when I was in Australia. I had my degree in Australia. That was the first time I heard that someone is actually sick because of peanut. It's something unheard of in Indonesia. So my knowledge of allergy is so limited because I never heard someone in Indonesia has an allergic to peanuts. But when I went abroad, I just realized, oh, there is actually a person has this sickness because of a small peanut, and it can kill them, something like that. I was like shocked. I was like surprised. While AI is actually, because the way it collects the data, collect informations from billions of websites, from millions of books probably, and also millions of images, that make them able to do the pattern recognitions. That's why looks like something like ChatGPT can generate like a novel insights. Yes, it is novel insights because we never heard about that knowledge before. For us, it's a novel insights because basically we just don't have that particular knowledge. While ChatGPT, fortunately, it has that particular knowledge because of the amount of data that it has. So that makes, ChatGPT a good companion to us. We can ask ChatGPT anything, and it will reply with certain answers that probably it's a good answers. I must say that the development of the ChatGPT right now is a good thing, but it was not the situations like on the early of 2023. Like 9 months ago, when I used ChatGPT, I usually complain a lot to ChatGPT. So I always refuse the answer from ChatGPT. I ask ChatGPT about some things, and then I just simply, no, that was not the answers. Why I can refuse the answers? Because I have the prior knowledge. I have the prior knowledge of that particular knowledge. Ask ChatGPT, and then it basically reply with some, they call this day as hallucinations. AI is being, doing hallucinations because the way it weight the word is not as, as smart as today. But this day, because they are being trained, with hundreds of billions of data, now they can see the whole thing more clearly, basically the AI, and it can provide us with this so-called novel insights. So that's why using LLM, something like a generative AI, it can basically help us to assist in tackling complex challenges. So when we use something like ChatGPT or any other LLMs, basically they can help us, assisting us by breaking problems into more manageable parts, offering us a fresh perspective of some things. So right now, Mark Zuckerberg and his wife, Dr. Priscilla Chan, they established the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, the CZI. One of the big projects that working right now is they are trying to use the LLMs to cure diseases at a cellular level. So if we are using ChatGPT right now to write some things, now actually many people are still start using the LLM to do something else, like the one that's being doing by Mark Zuckerberg and also his wife, Chance. So the way they do the LLM is basically they try to collect the data of cells, and then they map all the cells. So later on, they can have a pattern of how cell should looks like, how a cell should looks like. So whenever they put an image of a cell, and then because of the LLM, they have the vast amount of data, they know the pattern. If I have these particular cells close to that particular cells, it will create something else. So for example, we grew up from basically a single cells, right? And then the cell will split, and then somehow it changed, whenever a cell has in touch with this, for example, we have like a tendon cells that connects our bone, something like that. It has some specific patterns. When we have the cells in our heart, for example, it has some specific cells. Now they are trying to portray all the healthy cells. And then when someone has a disease, it used to be, for example, if you come to a doctor and then you say to him, I have some dizziness in my head, and then the doctor usually will ask you the symptoms, and most of the time the doctor will probably provide you with the same drugs to remedy the situations. Unfortunately, many times, even though people they have similar symptoms, usually it's not usually, but they have similar symptoms. It's not always the case that they actually has the same root of problem. You feel like a headache, for example. The headache can be it's because of some specific disease that you experience right now, or probably headache because you hit something on your head, and then somehow later on, in the next few months, the next few years, create like a headache on your head. And then if the doctor say, okay, you had a headache in this place, I will provide you with, say, for example, some specific drugs, which unfortunately it's not always the situations. So that's why now this LLM things is being used by many companies, including, for example, Google's, they have like a DeepMind. They develop an AI that can detect over 50 types, I believe 50 types, yes, 50 of eye diseases by only analyzing the 3D retinal scans, right? So they have these patterns of how these retinal scans, the healthy retinal scans, and then when they scan the retina, they can actually decide that, okay, there's a problem with these eyes. So this so-called LMM or generative AI, basically it helps us to challenge our perspective. There is something, a concept so-called lateral thinking. Lateral thinking is basically a problem-solving approach that involves looking at situations from multiple angles, from multiple perspectives. So if you are being asked, for me as someone from computer science, if I ask my students, what is 1 + 1? The answer can be 2, right? But it's not always the case. In a computer science, 1 + 1 is equals to 2. 1 + 1 can be 1, 0. Sometimes people just read 1, 0 as 10. It's actually 1, 0 rather than 10. But that's also the case in computer science. 1 + 1 is equal to 1, 0 rather than 2, because it's on binary digit situations, right? So this so-called lateral thinking sometimes challenge the way we solve some things. We are so get used to it. Some things. Human is what do they call it? A creature of habit. Human is a creature of habits. sometimes we need to challenge the habit that we have because of the pattern that we recognize since our childhood about some things. So having someone that can help you, provide you with different perspective of some things, it's always a good thing. That's where the generative AI or ChatGPT can help you when you try to solve some problems. It provides you with some different answers because it has this vast amount of data. And then using something like this generative AI, it helped us actually to reveal the something called as a cognitive biases. This cognitive biases is basically, because you are so used to with the information that you have from your childhood, like I did mention before, I never realized that there is actually a disease called, an allergy called peanut allergy. I never heard in my life that there is someone can get sick because they are eating nuts. So that bias coming from the pattern that we recognize since our childhood, sometimes make our decisions has some bias. AI, because they are being free from these biases, they can provide solutions. They can also provide some insights that can actually challenge the pattern that we are using right now. Also, at the same time, AI can provide us with multiple perspectives. AI can analyze a vast range amount of data, and they can consider multiple variables simultaneously, right? So that's why it looks so smart, because it can, provide some conclusions that we might never heard of before, because they have that part of data. So that's why, okay, this is a good thing actually, right? One of the case in education is something like this. Right now, I'm doing this with my students. We try to generate an applications that using something called as a Bloom taxonomy. So we utilize the OpenAI API. So for our students to understand for course materials, at least they have to understand few things. First, the basic thing that they need to know, remembering some things. So if I ask you, where does the sun rise? Oh, it's on the east, right? That's basically you remember things. But then when you ask the questions, why the sun rise from the east? That is something that you need to learn. Why the sun rise from the east? This is something called so-called Bloom taxonomy. It's actually a taxonomy that can help us to improve learning process, where we start by remembering some things and we move further into understanding something, and then we move further into applying something, analyze, evaluate, and at the end of the day, like, if you are doing PhD, basically you try to create new things, right? A new knowledge, something like that. So right now, what happened with my students and the one that I'm doing right now is we have like a course materials. We can have like a specific course materials. And then from that specific course of materials, we try to simulate the situations within a classroom. When a lecturer or when the teachers try to teach their students, the lecturers, they teach their students, and then provide with questions. Which part of the course actually good enough, so students can remember some things. Remembering is just like something like, where does the sun rise? Okay, the sun rise from the east. And then we follow up with the question is, are you understanding of some certain concepts? So since AI has this big amount of data, has a big amount of, say, for example, collections of questions from multiple choice, single answer, multiple choice, multiple answers, and then descriptions, and then analytics, and so on and so forth. It has huge amount of collection of data. So they have some particular knowledge. They have some particular informations. If you ask a question about analysis, for example, what would be the word that you are going to use? And at the same time, when you answer the questions, what is the traits of someone when they answer a questions that it's about analytical questions? So certain words is usually being used. Like, for example, the question that I just asked right now, why the sun rise from the east? The word why actually carrying weight more about analytics, right? We have that what, where, when, who, and then how, something like that, right? It's being used to basically evaluate in the questions. If you ask them about, okay, applying some things, the question will be how to implement blah, 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 something like that. So when the question start with the word how, oh, okay, that's probably where we use the Bloom taxonomy in the applying side. And then when the students try to answer the questions, basically they are going to use certain words as well. So when they have these certain words as an applications of some things, they will use that specific keywords. And by the end of the day, the AI can actually determine whether a student is good enough or remembering something, is good enough in understanding something, whether he is good enough in applying something, and so on and so forth. So this is actually a real case study, how we use the AI in educations and also in a personalized learning. We can actually create like situations where there is many cases actually in ChatGPT. Talk to me like a fourth grader. If you want to talk like to primary school students, for example, I use actually on daily basis ChatGPT to generate questions for my daughter. So my daughter, before the exams, I usually challenge her with some questions, math questions, physics questions, biology questions, right? So I use the information from the book and then generate the questions for my fourth grade primary school daughter. And then it will provide with sets of questions. And then I can basically challenge her with that questions. And in hope that she will understand more about certain objects that she's been doing right now. So that's how this AI it's been done. One of them is using this so-called personalized learning. But there is one thing in this AI that we need to understand as well. That is ethical and philosophical considerations. With AI as companions, ethical and philosophical questions then emerge. We are being challenged to rethink whether something that we produce using AI actually, you cannot claim something is being produced by you if you don't have the contributions. So oftentimes when I have when I supervise my students, I always ask them, provide me with your ChatGPT prompt. I always encourage my students to use ChatGPT. I never, forbid them to use ChatGPT. I even encourage them a lot. Please use ChatGPT when doing your research. But I do not want them to use the ChatGPT into something like this. Like, for example, questions, what is the definitions of photovoltaic, for example? What is the definitions of this, say, for example, in a biology, that means, what is the definition of a cell? I don't want them to use ChatGPT for something like that. They need to provide, I have a case, and then this is my thought of this particular case. This is the problem, and I see that I can actually solve the problem this way. So I ask them to put a lot of things in their mind, and then ask ChatGPT to help them to reconstruct, to create a framework, to create like a story from the thoughts that they have. So when we are using ChatGPT, something like that, that will be the best of ChatGPT, right? But if you're not using ChatGPT like that, you just simply ask questions and wait them to answer your questions. That's a bad way of using ChatGPT. The other one is actually, you can't actually really trust this LLM 100%. I'll show you, this is the demo that I actually run these LLMs in my computer. So I use a platform similar with ChatGPT, but it's not ChatGPT. This is something called Oma. And then I'm using a model from this Meta from Facebook. They provide with the open source LLM. And I ask questions like something like this. So this person, for example, the second questions, do you know who Anies Baswedan is? He is the candidate, one of the candidates of the presidency in Indonesia right now. And the answer was quite surprising. He was like the member of a particular party in Indonesia, which he never, I believe. He was the Minister of Education and Cultures. He was a governor of Jakarta. But the way this LLM put, like this one, but I can confirm that the person you are referring to is the one who served as Vice President of Indonesia in 2019, which is not true. That's something that we call as hallucinations. So in conclusions, how can we use this ChatGPT safely? The first thing is you keep curious. Second, you keep your skepticism. You cannot believe whatever ChatGPT. Again, I need to mention this. ChatGPT or generative AI doesn't have any consciousness level at all. So keep your skepticisms towards this LLM. That's why you need to have a prior knowledge. You need to learn. You do not rely all to ChatGPT. And the last one is keep forward thinking mindset. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Andri. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have around 4 minutes for the question and answer session. If you have a questions, you may unmute your microphone or you can write it down on the chat box. All right, while we are waiting the questions, Dr. Andri, I would like to propose you a question. So basically in your presentation, you are encouraging the students or academicians to use AI as our provoking companion. But instead being of provoking companions, sometimes we are being spoon-fed by the AI. So if you mentioned about the Bloom taxonomy previously, how do we avoid that we are being spoon-fed? Because the AI sometimes are not stimulating us to think, but we are receiving everything from the AI. So what do you think about that?
Yeah. When I mentioned about prior knowledge, why, first time ChatGPT went out and I used that one, I usually refute all the answers from ChatGPT. Not all, actually, like 50% of, I was like, I had like one questions last time. It's about something from the Quran. And then ChatGPT just simply hallucinate the outcome of the questions that I had, right? That was, like a moment for me realizing that ChatGPT is basically, okay, we need to have like a good judgments when using this ChatGPT. ChatGPT or any other LLMs, this large language model, depends on the data set, depends on the training data set that they use to train the data. So if you fed the data, wrong data, if you fed the LLMs with the wrong data, it will provide you with the wrong informations. Okay, that's one thing for sure. It will provide you with the wrong informations. So that's why being critical to the output of the ChatGPT, for example, is necessary. You have to reread again everything being, the response of the prompt that you have, and then the ChatGPT will provide you with the response. You need to understand that, I cannot accept the output 100%. Yes, it might help me. It might help me to break down a case and so on and so forth, but we still need to have a good understanding. That's why prior knowledge, that's the keyword that I use, is necessary. Students definitely cannot rely on ChatGPT. You still have an obligations to learn about some things. Using ChatGPT will help you to learn more, to learn better. And for your informations, I read a few days ago, the daily use of ChatGPT is around 100 million somethings. And I only realized that those who are using paid ChatGPT is only like 200,000 people. Less than 1% of the users of ChatGPT are using this paid ChatGPT. Only paid ChatGPT provide you with a GPT-4. If you're using free versions of ChatGPT, it will provide you with ChatGPT 3.5, which, last time, long time ago, when I used ChatGPT 3.5, I refute a lot of, I did like rebuttal for all the answer from the ChatGPT 3.5. It still provides a lot of hallucinations. If you're using ChatGPT 4, yes, it is difference, I'm basically on daily basis, I'm using ChatGPT 4. So I don't have that much complaints. If I'm still using ChatGPT 3.5, I probably will complain a lot, right? So if you think you are being spoiled, you are being spoon-fed by the ChatGPT 3.5, you need to understand that most likely, or there's a high chance of probability, you're being spoon-fed wrong informations. So that's why we need to keep the skepticism, especially if you're using this so-called low quality of LLM. Everyone here need to understand that not LLMs are the same. Not every single large language models are the same. There are plenty actually there is a website called Hugging Face. They provide you with many open source of LLM where you can actually install on your PC, like the one that I'm using right now. This one I'm using Mistral actually, and it definitely being like a hallucinations. You see, even this LLM so sure. I can confirm that the person you are referring to is the one who served as Vice President of Indonesia in 2019, which is not true at all, right? Which is not true at all, And in fact, you don't know at all how did OpenAI train the ChatGPT. You don't have the information at all. But Llama, Mistral, and Orca from Microsoft, for example, they have these sets being published in Hugging Face. They are open source. You can actually check the model that they're using. So that's why the way to prevent you from being spoon-fed by this so-called ChatGPT is to understand that generative AI is only as good as the data set that they are being used as the model. If the model is wrong, the data set being trained is wrong, then your answer will be wrong, So keep curious, keep skepticism, and then keep forward-thinking mindset.
Okay, all right, Dr. Andre. So I have a questions on my chat box, on my private chat box. So how will AI influence research ethics in the future? And then how did you monitor the students when they interact with the ChatGPT? How did you monitor the students' interaction with the ChatGPT?
Okay. Last semester, I taught one of a class in my department. So it's like an English class because it's an English class. Of course, I have to deal with the ChatGPT. Student can just simply use ChatGPT and their answer will be perfect, right? You know what? Rather than reading, if students they produce an assignments with something unreadable, I prefer to read something readable, right? I think we can agree on that. So actually, ChatGPT can help us to read some papers better. I'm also a big believer on that one. So this is the case. Last semester, when I this English class, what happened was the first half of the semester, I prohibit them to use ChatGPT. So the first half of the semester, I prohibit them to use ChatGPT. Well, at the same time, this is something that I said to them. Once we had the midterm exams, which is so the next half of the course, we are going to use ChatGPT. So the first half, I asked them not to use ChatGPT, and the second half, I asked them to use ChatGPT, right? So later on, you can actually compare what went wrong with your deliverables. So they need to understand what's wrong with my assignment. Okay, what's wrong with my assignments? Okay, you have done wrong on this part. They only realized that their product was a garbage, that their assignment is a rubbish. Once they understand this, the way that ChatGPT deliver the product, right? So that's why half of the course, I asked them not to submit the results of the ChatGPT, but their prompt actually. So I asked them, provide me with the prompt. So I never prohibit them to use a ChatGPT. Rather, I simply encourage them to use ChatGPT. So all my students now being supervised by me right now doing their final year project, thesis. So I always ask them, I don't want to read your typo, your, where you put the sentence wrong, but you need to make sure you have everything in your mind first. You put all the concept, you just write down everything that you have, and then later on, use the ChatGPT as a means. So now ChatGPT is not a tool to develop your thesis. No, it's a means basically to structure your thesis better, So that's why, I know that some lecturer probably will disagree with me, some teacher will probably disagree with me, but for me, ChatGPT is like, when calculator was invented, some math teacher will definitely, you are not allowed to use calculator. Anyway, right now people are using calculator, almost everyone. So ChatGPT is basically doing the same thing. Rather than rejecting the ChatGPT, why don't we just simply, make use of it and make it better, and still doing this one, keep critical to any results provided by the AI. I hope that answers.
You, Dr. Andre.
Yeah.
So we also have question from Sahal, and I think we have discussed about that. So how do we try to rely less on ChatGPT? Yeah,
Yep.
skepticism, keep being
Right.
curious, keep forward-thinking mindset. So I think
Yeah.
that's the answer.
You know
I saw
what?
someone
You know what,
raising.
Mas Fajar? You know what? Whenever ChatGPT produce the output of the prompt that I have, sometimes I just simply, I disagree with you. Provide me with other perspective. Simply doing that help you to, oh, okay, this probably will, just simply by saying, I disagree with you. Provide me with something else. Okay, that's okay. ChatGPT provide the different answers.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Andre.
Mhm.
And your idea about submitting the prompt question to monitor the students' interaction, it's very, very brilliant, I think, yeah, to monitor the students'
Yeah, at least you know
interaction with
that
the
they're doing
ChatGPT.
critical thinking or not. If they just simply
Yes.
write me a CV, develop or help me to build a curriculum fit or resume for me to apply for a job. If they promise something like that, just simply, okay, you got like 20 out of 100.
All right, it's very interesting discussion, Dr. Andri, but I'm afraid that we are reaching into the last minute of our discussion because
Thanks
we
for
need to
having
move
me.
into the next speaker. Thank you very much for a very
You're welcome.
enlightening discussion, Andri. And please give a round of applause once again to Dr. Andri. Thank you very much, Dr. Andri. And yeah, I think the next topic is also a very interesting topic that will be delivered our next speaker. So before starting and digging more our next speaker, I would like to introduce our next speaker. Okay. Committee, can you display our speaker CV? Mbak Citra? Okay. So our next speaker is Dr. Fajri Koto. Currently, he is a postdoctoral research fellow at Mohammed bin Zayed University of Artificial Intelligence. And then the topic that we are going to discuss with Dr. Fajri is evaluating knowledge of large language models, a case study of Indonesian school exams. He earned his doctoral degree on computer science at University of Melbourne, Australia. And then he also earned his master degree on computer science at Universitas Indonesia. And he earned his bachelor degree on computer science at Universitas Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Fajri to start his presentation. To Dr. Fajri, the screen is yours.
Right, thanks, Mas Rifki, for the introduction. I will share my screen. Okay. I guess you guys can see my screen, right?
Yes, clear. Please do.
I will turn on the laser pointer. Okay. All right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to say thank you very much for Universitas Islam Indonesia for the invitations. It's really an honor for me to be here in online lecture series along with Dr. Andri and Dr. Aneja. And as already introduced by Mas Rifki, the title is Evaluating Knowledge of LLMs, where we kind of like trying to understand the LLM knowledge over Indonesian exams. So based on the Indonesian curriculum. A brief introduction of myself. My research interest actually has been doing plenty of NLP research since 2013. I'm highlighting here LLM. I'm doing LLM evaluations, evaluating knowledge in Indonesian text, Chinese text. as well as common sense reasoning. We will dig into this Indo-MML in this presentation in particular. And I was also involved in the creation of LLM, in particular, the first Arabic-centric LLM this year. We call it JAIS for this foundation model in Arabic and JAIS check for the instruction tuning. I also working currently for the Indonesian T0 and Bactrian X is the multilingual versions of large language model. I started doing research in this area from summarization and discourse analysis. I want to start this presentation with how it was started. So as I guess most of you are already aware of, this is the algorithm that become the backbone of the today's modern artificial intelligence. Why it becomes so powerful today from Paswani et al. 2017, where we have the paper Attention is All You Need from Google. I'm not going to into detail about how its algorithm works. You can read by your own in the paper. But the idea here is if you know about the recurrent neural network or convolutional neural network, we call it transformers. In transformer, we eliminate the recurrent function. There is no recursive function here. And also we can see it's kind of like a full convolutional layers that can attend all of the input. So it has a part in the left side, the encoder here, and the right side is the decoder. And some published model, I mean like pre-trained model, they can be encoder-decoder using the both left and right architectures. But if we see the current powerful models such as ChatGPT, GPT-4, they are basically decoder-only model. So there is no kind of like the left part here. So I will talk about the evaluation of language models. Why we are saying it now large language model. It starts from Elmo actually by using, but not using even the transformer or the attention is all you need paper. But it used LSTM architecture. And around, I think, year 2019, one of the most old models, which is BERT, become one of the breakthrough in NLP. People keep mentioning it, using it. And until today, we have ChatGPT that have 175 billion parameters. And even today, we have GPT-4, where OpenAI doesn't release the number or doesn't disclose the number of parameters in this model. So we can see here that number of parameters that people use in language models getting bigger and bigger every year. This is because people found that increasing the number of parameters kind of like producing a new or emergent abilities in language model. That's why they become so good at many things. I will discuss first how actually the language models is pre-trained. I think Dr. Aneja already explained it very well before, but I want to start here with one of the traditional model pre-trainings, which is MLM, Mouse Language Model, from BERT model, Devlin et al. 2019. The idea here, we got the corpus, right? And the corpus have some text here. And then MLM stands for Mouse Language Model. We are basically masking particular words randomly like this. We censor them, we delete them, and we ask language model to reconstruct or predict the mask token. We keep doing that for quite some time, and then we produce the BERT model. And what will happen here is the model is not able to be used directly for any task we want. We need to do some fine tuning where we have some specific tasks, such as here is topic classification. Given some text, we got some target label here, biology, and we do some second stage of training, which is fine tuning to utilize the model. And there are some example of the language models pre-training based on MLM. We can see BERT, Roberta, and Electra. But the powerful model we have today, like ChatGPT or GPT-4, it's not based on this MLM pre-training. It's based on autoregressive model or just a simple language model objective. So I think Dr. Aneja also explained it before. What happened here during pre-training is we're trying to estimate the product or probability of a token given the previous context. We can see here in this first two examples is the language modeling objective, where for the first example is full language model. We are So we at the first when we do pre-training, we give the model the context word may, and then we ask the model to generate the next words, right? So here the context here is word may, and then we also have perfect language model. We have several contexts, which is here may the force. So which means that S1 to Sn-1 here is sub-sentence may the force, and we ask the model to generate be with you. So the transformer will try to parameterize this probability, so then we can generate this with its decoder. And the last example is for BERT pre-training that I have discussed before. So please keep in mind that this is the very simple way to do language model pre-training, but it's very powerful. And then what happened in year 2023 is we have ChatGPT, right? Why it's become so good? So we got terminology I already mentioned before about the foundation models. We also have instruction fine-tuning. So foundation model is basically like this one. We simply ask the model to keep doing generate text given certain context, right? And then we have GPT-1, GPT-2, GPT-3. They are kind of like able to produce coherent text, very coherent, but it's not very practical to be used. It cannot follow instructions, and it has high hallucination rate. So if you ask the model to generate text, it often contains something like factually incorrect information. So that's why in year 2023, OpenAI introduced instruction fine-tuning, trying to align this language model with the expected text we want to have in the generated text. What the good thing about the instruction fine-tuning here is we are no longer need to do this fine-tuning for specific tasks. For BERT, for instance, MLM pre-training, we need to do some fine-tuning, which means it requires particular datasets or dataset pairs. For instance, for topic modeling, we need a text and the topic, or for sentiment analysis, for instance, we need the text and its sentiment level, positive, negative, or neutral. But for the instruction fine-tuning here, we have instruction and response pair. So in instruction and response pair, it can be about anything. So what good about this is it is able to introduce generalization over tasks about any task we have. So that is why when we try to GPT, it can do almost anything, because it can generate code, it can paraphrase and do many things. It can predict sentiment as well. So that's one of the breakthrough as well in year 2023. And then in this fine-tuning also, the instruction fine-tuning also improved by the RLHF, but some papers also say that RLHF not really significant, kind of still like on ongoing topic, research topic. And one thing I want to emphasize as well, like there's also an interest to do safety alignment, because some papers in GPT-4, for instance, Llama, they also have safety alignment. It's basically trying to ensure that the generated text does not violate human norms or try to be safe in the generated text. The way they do it is simply like introducing a new dataset, like instruction response pair dataset, that try to neglect to answer such inappropriate questions or prompt. Yeah, even and safety alignment is still also ongoing research. Some people is able to hack these safety alignment procedure as well. I want to emphasize as well about two things because my talk will be about will be focused more on research. So there are two types of like LLM today. There are open source and also closed source. ChatGPT and GPT-4, they are closed source, and there are plenty of open source as well, like Llama and Llama 2. You can see here and down there, Bloom, Yum, etc. So why it does matter for research? Because when we work on research, we never know the detail of the closed source model at the end, on their end, like how they pre-train, what kind of data they use. And even there's a study that's showing that for GPT-4, the output kind of revolve up throughout the time. So imagine if you are using some closed source model for your research, your research outcome might be kind of like questionable if the model suddenly change on the company ends. So it's kind of different from the open source, where the model is always available, the parameter is transparent, and yeah, I would suggest to consider both open source and closed source model when doing research. And now, like, we know that language models, we have large language models. How can we evaluate them? How we can like very sure that it's very safe to be used, it's very good at any some particular case. If we reflect on previous evaluation procedure, people use some benchmark that they call as glue benchmark, but it starts to become less relevant. So glue benchmark is more like downstream NLP tasks such as sentiment analysis, doing summarizations. In English, large language models are very good at it. Second one is people start to consider zero-shot and few-shot inference. Zero-shot here means that there is no need to do some fine-tuning when we do predictions, like what we do in ChatGPT, for instance. When we do some, we just have some instruction tuning data sets. But for doing prediction, when we use the model, we don't provide many examples anymore, like what we did in the previous NLP models. And there's also few-shot inference, where we provide some examples when we use the ChatGPT. For instance, when we want to paraphrase the text in ChatGPT, we can provide some examples prior to the prompt. For instance, you can say, like, I want to paraphrase this text, and then you give the input and then the output, right? Which means you already have some additional context as the input. And for the next row, you can say, please paraphrase this text based on the examples above. So that's few-shot inference. So if the old benchmark like glue is less relevant, how people evaluate their model? So they basically evaluate the model based on this ability, such as reasoning, knowledge, common sense, biases, factual checking, hallucination, and etc. So my talk will focus more on knowledge evaluation of large language model in Indonesian context. And what is the implication on education? So we know that LLM becomes so good in producing coherent text because it has been exposed to many information. And then we have question here: how reliable is the LLM for education? I would say it's kind of promising tools for education. It can be used for assisted teaching. It can help teacher to do assessment. It can be like question generation based on the Bloom taxonomy that has been mentioned by Dr. Andri. But before we go to that, we need to verify or quantify the hallucination rate of the LLM, and as well as the factuality of knowledge in LLM, how factual knowledge embedded in that LLM, as well as the bias and the reasoning ability. So I will talk about our paper here that is going to be presented in MNLP 2023 in December next month. There are 4 authors here: myself, Nurul Aisha, Honali, and Timothy Baldwin. You can see the title. You can search into Google the paper. Basically, we try to test LLM with Indonesian school exam from different range of school levels, from primary school, middle school to senior high school, and university entrance tests. And we found some, and this is our findings. So why we do this? Because if we reflect on technical reports or papers that has been published by OpenAI or Meta in ChatGPT, GPT-4, the way they evaluated their model is based on the English exam. We can see data set being used there is law exam, bar exam, GRE, like standardized tests in the US, SAT, math school exam, and university exams. They no longer use tasks such as sentiment analysis and summarization for English. Similarly, for Meta, they also use English-centric datasets like knowledge, common sense, even code generation and reading comprehension as well. Reading comprehension here means like question answering tasks. But we know that these models is pre-trained or created by using many texts, and they are multilingual, not just text. So there are some research gaps here that the models being evaluated only using English, right? And how we can do knowledge evaluation. Yeah, as I said earlier, my talk here focused on knowledge evaluation. So we basically just crawl some data set on school exam questions. So the most famous data set in school exam question for English is this one, MMLU, stands for Massive Multitask Language Understanding, published by Berkeley, University of Berkeley, Hendrik et al. 2020 in ICLR, one of top machine learning conference. And the screenshot here is large language model leaderboard from Hugging Face, one of the well-known platform for hosting machine learning models. And you can see here they use MMLU, which is the school exam question in the US. So what is MMLU? It's basically question answering dataset, multiple choice question. We got ABCD across various subjects, across education levels, but they are in the US curriculum. So this is the example of English MMLU. We got here example for microeconomics subject. We also got here example for physics and college and mathematics. Yeah, very straightforward like Indonesian school exam as well, but here is written in English. And we got 4 multiple choice answer and 1 correct answer, right? So as I said earlier, what about the evaluation of this large language model beyond English? Because they are pre-trained anyway with language, with multilingual text. And in GPT-4 technical report, they use machine translation to translate the English MMLU into many languages, including Indonesian, and report and claim some pretty good score like 80 plus out of 100. And in JAIS model, which is the Arabic-centric large language model, they evaluated their model using Arabic translation of the English dataset as well. The drawback of the translation is the content itself is US-centric. For instance, like the history or maybe law, or it doesn't align with Indonesian, for instance. And that's why it could be cultural irrelevance and could have different norms and laws. That's why we introduced Indo MMLU here in this paper, where we crawl 15,000 multiple choice questions based on Indonesian education curriculum, right? And it got 64 subject areas and education level. We know there are sekolah dasar, primary school, middle school, and high school here, and university entrance test across multiple subjects. And our highlights here in Indo MMLU is 46% of the question we have focus on Indonesian language proficiency. So we can use this dataset to test Indonesian proficiency of the model across different education level, and as well as evaluating knowledge of local language and culture in Indonesia, because we have local language subject in Indonesia as well. This is the subject distribution, subject list of Indo MMLU. Here I'm highlighting subject with Indonesian theme like geography, history, sociology, civics education, PPKN, economics, and some culture like Lampung, Lampungik, Balinese, Makassares, and etc. here. And we also have Indonesian language, which have more fine-grained education level from level 1, level 2 until level 12. This is the example of Indo MMLU. The blue color here is only for illustrative purposes. Yeah, we got multiple choice, 1 correct answer. And we got here Minangkabau culture subject, Sundanese subject, civics subject, PPKN, and chemistry subject. So the first 4 example here, they tend to be more local, but for chemistry subject, they tend to be more universal to the US exams. How we gather this data set? We got 77 applicants to do this data constructions, and we select 7 Indonesian professional teachers, all have bachelor degree in educations. We provide them 1-hour workshop regarding the data collection process. We provide them 1 month to do this. So everything is crawl manually, and we do also a quality control to ensure the answer key is correct. And how we do the experiment is pretty straightforward. We give some prompt, ini adalah blah, 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 blah. Please choose the correct answer. And we evaluate 24 models, starting from the open source and closed source model like GPT 3.5, which is ChatGPT here. We got some open source model. And the first finding we find is there are 2 ways to measure the result. First, we can just look into the letter A, B, C, D, and we select the answer, or we or we look at into the full answer, which is, for instance, here, let's go back to this. Here, the first way is we provide this to ChatGPT, for instance. This one, terjadinya hubungan in 2 sampai D here. And then we, for the answer, we just look at into the probability of answer of one letter A, B, C, D. So that for the first one, and or the second one, we expect the answer to be, for instance, written as a full text. Let's say A or A perkawinan, for instance. But when we find that actually simply using the letters as the indicators of answer provide higher score, which is across all model here. And this is kind of all of models, not all models, all model with a bigger size. Here, ChatGPT tend to be better, but the score is not very impressive, only 53.2 on average out of 100. And we can see in particular for local language and culture, MT0XXL with only 13 billion parameter achieve better result than GPT 3.5. But I would say none of this model really know about local languages and culture in Indonesia. And we try to break down the result based on the education level. Here we specifically focus on GPT 3.5 because it is our best model in the experiment. It only passed primary school exam. By having passing grade of 65 here, we can see the green cells where the score is higher than the passing grade score across the subject. But if we see middle school or senior high school, they tend to be lower than the passing grade score. And for here, the local language subject, none of the subjects are passed by GPT 3.5 or ChatGPT. And because it is interesting to see that how the smaller model MT0XXL is better than larger model like ChatGPT, right? So we try to break down them based on the subject here. And we find here that MT0XXL is very good at Japanese and Sundanese, while GPT 3.0 with a very big gap here. We look at to the last two rows here, Japanese and Sundanese. There are, I guess, like 15-point gap between the two. And GPT 3.5 perform better in other subject like Dayak Ngaju. But again, the score is not that impressive. Now, also one of the interesting part. So in x-axis here is the education level. So this one, primary school level 1 until level 12. Level 13 here means the university entrance test. We got the accuracy here from 10 to 100. You can see here 3 models, GPT 3.5, MT0, and Bloomsy. So as the education level increases, the model's performance gradually declines. So it gives us some insight about the Indonesian proficiency over this large language model, that it seems like they are good at answering Indonesian subject for primary schools, but not that impressive for high school in this context. And this is the feature inference. Feature inference, as I said before, is when we provide some example in the prompt. Here, some models good at few shots, some model does not. Model that's good at a few shot is the blue one, Llama, and Falcon. And we also have more analysis on question with negations and also more confident in our paper. But the conclusion of the talk is Indo-MMLU is a collection of Indonesian school exams, and there are still many works to do to apply Indonesians, to apply large language model for Indonesian context, because we find that ChatGPT only able to pass primary school exam in Indonesia, and there are barely no Indonesian culture. I think that's all for my end. Thank you so much for attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Koto. So let's give a round of applause to Dr. Koto. So I think we are reaching into the question and answer session. If you have questions, you may write it down in the box, or you can press your microphone or unmute your microphone and express it directly. Anyone, please? All right, so while we're waiting the audience, okay, we have questions. So the questions is from Mr. Dayan. the censorship of ChatGPT is sometimes in the way, same as their unusual incorrect information. OpenAI has also started to limit several searches, and sometimes the result made the user hallucinate with a slight different the expected answer. Do you suggest us to create our own GPT, or do you suggest us to keep relying on the existing GPT? And why is it so? Please, Dr.
I'm
Koto.
trying to, sure, thanks, Mas Rifki. I'm trying to get the question. So I will read it again. Okay. The censorship of ChatGPT is sometimes in the way same as the unusual incorrect information. Okay. I will say the current ChatGPT is trained optimally for the English users. Not sure if you are referring to know in English Indonesian when you try to use Indonesian prompt or English text. But if that's English, I want to know the example as well, like what kind of example you have tried that so you find the user the hallucination in the expected answer. I will say the current model is not fully free for the hallucination because it's an ongoing research as well in NLP where people keep trying to improve the to reduce the hallucination rate of the LLMs. For Indonesian context, question is, do I suggest to create our own GPT or do you suggest us? I will say yes, but I'm not sure our government really aware of the importance of LLM at the moment, where I know that many countries overseas like UAE, for instance, Saudi, UK, Japan, they try to invest. I mean, the government try to invest to create their own foundation model. So that because what's currently missing in Indonesian is the Indonesian foundation model. LLM is missing now. Even if we are trying the current research, we might say that we have some LLM in Indonesia, but they are built on top of Llama. Llama is based on it's trained using the English. Yeah. I hope they answered the questions for M Daya. Can we move to the next question, Mas Rifki? I think you are not audible, Mas Rifki.
You're still muted, Mas Rifki. You still.
Maybe I can start to move to the next question.
Yes.
Okay, so the next questions is from Bu Virus about the evaluation, Koto, related to the evaluation for a GPT-4. Since now GPT-4 can even work on the integral questions. So can you elaborate more about that?
Yes, GPT-4 is very recent. Like even for our dataset, like Indonesian question exams, I didn't even have access to GPT-4 when I submitted the paper. Even though if we do have access to the paper, to the GPT-4, it's kind of very, like less likely to evaluate them for free because it's based like commercial models, and let them do that by their own. It's based on my own perspective, like evaluating the commercial model like GPT-4. But I guess the GPT-4 performance over Indonesian's exam as well is going to higher than the GPT 3.5, and we'll interesting to see that for the English context, yes, GPT-4 can work on integral questions. Is very good at it, yeah. But we need to test it for Indonesian exam. But I will say that it might still struggle for the local language subjects. Yeah. Because if you reflect on, let's say, Common Crawl or data that we have in internet, there are only few of them have, let's say, Sundanese or Japanese, yeah, compared to English. I think we can move to the next question, Mas.
Okay. So we have a question from Mr. Baurafinda. Actually, he is doing research on evaluating text summarization, which is done by ChatGPT. So is there any method to evaluate text summarization result?
Sure. Summarization evaluation actually also ongoing research, but the traditional way, there are always two ways to evaluate generated text, automatically or manually. I will start with manual evaluation first. Manual evaluation is very obvious. Like we have article, we have the expected summary written by human, of course, and summary generated by a machine. So we got that three elements. And then we ask people who are native on that language to assess some criteria we want, such as the informativeness, the coherency, or the focus of the summary, and hallucination rate. Many aspects we have in summarization research. Of course, in doing summarization, it's always encouraged to have human evaluations because the automatic evaluation is not perfect. There are always some, like it is cheaper to be done, but it's not perfect. And for the automatic evaluation part, the traditional method, as I'm pretty sure Mr. Barafinda are already aware of, about some automatic score evaluations such as Root score or Blue score is basically just two text comparison given the summary written by human and then given the machine generated summary. We compare them based on let's say number of word overlap between the two texts. And this is very traditional way, but it has been shown that the score of the automatic evaluation correlate with human judgment. The recent way is by using semantic similarity between the two sentences, not in the level of word overlap between the two texts. And one of the recent way as well, they even use GPT-4 to evaluate the summarization result. How we use that? As simple as providing a prompt to GPT-4, for instance. I'll say we have this human written summary, and then we have the generated machine summary, and then, hey, GPT-4, in a range score of 0 to 1, please rate this summary written by a machine. Then we get a score as well. There are some research papers saying that it's better. It is kind of the best method we have now. Yeah. So this is several ways we can do for evaluating summarization.
Okay. So I think this is the last questions, Dr. Koto.
Okay.
As shown in the evaluation table result of several LLM on Indonesia MMLU, the performance is still far below to be said as reliable source. What is the most feasible take to align LLM for education usage other than training from scratch? So what do you think about this question?
So question for Rohana.
Rohana, from Rohana, yes.
Yeah, Rohana. Yes. So what is the conclusion of this research is when we test the knowledge about Indonesian Indonesian subject to let's say here GPT is not very satisfying. Yes, that's correct. But it doesn't mean that we cannot use this to assist the teaching or the education, because what we have done here is we simply ask questions without any answer key, right? We simply conduct an exam to ChatGPT and ask the model to answer. But in terms of like utilizing this LLM for teaching, we can use this for assessment, for instance. In doing the assessment, we will provide the answer key to the ChatGPT and student answer, and then ask ChatGPT to compare them. So it's not kind of like so here is more like two texts or two answers comparison, not evaluating the ChatGPT knowledge. Why we do it anyway? This knowledge assessment to ChatGPT, because if we want to use ChatGPT as, let's say, this tutor, AI tutor, right? Want to teach students like deliberately like that. But we need to ensure the knowledge that they have, that model have, is valid and correct. So that's why we need to do this, or in order to avoid hallucinations, in fact, factually incorrect information when these AI tools are teaching the student. So that's the main reason why we do that. I hope that answer the question. Yeah. But if we want to use that for Indonesian context, of course, I think again, it's my personal opinion. I know it's very expensive to have Indonesian version of large language model for the foundation model, but I think we need to have that if we want to deploy the system in Indonesian context in many areas. including education. I think that's the
Right.
answer, Mas.
Yes, I think Bu Rohana already responds by saying thank you. It means it's clear enough,
Okay.
Pak Koto. All right, so I'm afraid that we are reaching the very end of our time, Dr. Koto. So we have spent, more than 30 minutes actually
Okay. Sorry about
for our session. So once again, let's give a round of applause to our three speakers, to Dr. Koto, Dr. Narendra, and Dr. Andri Setiawan. So based on what we have discussed today, I think we have learned about the ethic of using AI. How do we incorporate AI into the education context? And then we have to keep being skeptical on the AI because probably they provide some answer, but the answer need to be, we need to check more on validity and reliability of the answer. So we cannot 100% rely on the AI, but we have to work together, collaborate with the AI. All right, I think that's part of the conclusion in our discussion today. And I do believe that all of the educators here have so many insights about how do we incorporate AI and provide right prompt to collaborate with the AI. Once again, let's give a round of applause to our three speakers. Thank you very much. We are very honored to have you here. And I think that's all, Mbak Aida. I'm Rifki signing out and giving back the scene to you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Mas Rifki, and also to our respective speakers. That was really nice discussion. I am learning a new thing, to be honest, the AI. And I think I'm going to share a good news for all the participants because we have selected 3 participants who have sent the best questions to us during the lecture. And they are, first we have Bapak Fuad Hashim. And then we have Ibu Fairuz Rahma. And the last one, we have Ibu Rohana. I think I will just write them down on the chat box so that you can read the name of the selected participants. All right, Bapak Fuad Hashim, Ibu Fairuz Rahma, and also Ibu Rohana. Congratulations to the selected participants. We have prepared some vouchers for you. Please, you might contact our team. You can contact me or the host of the Zoom or anyone who is being co-host. Or if the committee will contact, can we contact the selected participants? Mbak Citra or Mbak Nisa, ya, please help me. Okay, all right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have reached the very end of our event today. On behalf of Universitas Islam Indonesia, we would like to say thank you for your active participation today. And also thank you to our respective speakers for sharing us valuable knowledge. It is such an honor for us to have such amazing partners from University Brunei Darussalam and Mohammed bin Zayed University of Artificial Intelligence. My very last announcement will be, we are going to share the QR code for issuing your e-certificate. You might simply scan the QR code and fill out some questions. Make sure that you write your name and email correctly, because once you miss one letter, the certificate will never come to you. And the link is only available for 2 hours. So make sure that you will access the link as soon as possible. Yes, I guess that's all from me. Once again, thank you for everyone who has participated today. I am Aida signing out. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.